Hello and welcome to the most significant review on my channel in recent times. It is time to talk about one of the most important and key characters of the Horus Heresy, the Primarch of the 9th Legion of the Space Marines, Sanguinius. Of course, this is as always JOYTOY 1/18 scale, the box is large and heavy, the packaging is standard for Primarch figures. Inside there are 3 layers of soft foam rubber on which the figure is placed, separated from the wings and the generous set of accessories. It is very pleasant to sort out the contents of the box. Sanguinius is the rare type of figure that needs to be assembled. There are 2 large connectors on the back for installing wings. It is quite interesting that their pins are not fixed rigidly. The wings are not inserted tightly, which has consequences like falling apart, and a lot of influence on posing that we will talk about. It is also a must-have to assemble the bracket stand. This, as I understand it, is a unique JOYTOY stand specifically for Sanguinius, with large base and powerful links, but maybe same were made for Tau. It consists of 3 parts and has tight mobility, which is very good. I'm writing the text for the review after the video was completely filmed, so I'm going to give out a spoiler. This stand is absolute must-have. Of course, there's a small standard JOYTOY circle in the kit, but it is absolutely useless. So when in a couple of months or a couple of years second-hand offers of Sanguinius appear on the market, I strongly recommend you not to take the figure without this stand, under any circumstances. Let's have a look at the appearance of the Primarch. It may sound harsh, but Sanguinius is dressed in a very well, literally tight-fitting plate armor of a golden color with small darkened areas. He has pointed knight boots, decorated with a lot of beautiful textured patterns. On the knees along the emblem of the Legion, this is the body tier and wings. The patterns continue on the hips. 3 straps hang from the top, ending with the emblems of the Legion. A sheath hangs almost the entire length of the left leg. A fashionable leopard cloak at the back. Under which, by the way, the back of the armor is simply smooth. Above on the waist we can see the attachment points for the belts. The chain on which the scabbard is suspended. The armor that emphasizes the waist of the Primarch. By the way, the lower part, in the form of the letter W, is rubberized. On the chest there is a custom emblem of the Legion made of precious redstones. On the left side you can see the cloak fastening. On the right there is a completely unremarkable because of the monotonous colors heraldic shield, with the emblem of the Legion and the Roman numeral 9. The arms are decorated with patterns in the same way as the legs. Similar straps with the emblems hang from the shoulders. There is a clear sequence and absolute symmetry in the design of the armor, which other Primarchs usually don't have. Under the left hand is hidden a very soft holster for a pistol. It is funny that its fastening is a wreath. From behind you can see the area of the back that the stand is attached. 2 clawed paws, the upper part of the cloak and of course the wings. There are 2 very large surfaces with a feather texture and many small lines and curves. That looks great. It must have been difficult to paint them so that they didn't look monochromatic. I think it is a great job. In life they look nice, and it is completely hard plastic. Sanguinius' shoulder pads are completely symmetrical, except that on the left one rests the head of the cat, from which his cloak was made. The animal is called Carnadon. It is something like saber-toothed tiger in Warhammer. It hides the skull pattern on the armor and the upper part of the round emblem. For some reason some people didn't like Sanguinius' face on the release, but I have no complaints about it. I think it looks great. Long curly blonde hair, a wreath, a focused calm expression. Behind the head there is a protective plate in the shape of the sun, also painted with patterns and having an emblem. The wreath on the back of the head is fixed with a redstone. Sanguinius' weapon set is rich in every sense. There is a lot of it and it looks very expensive and luxurious. Firstly, the Anchor Mine Sword, a very beautiful blade with decoration on the guard that protects the hand. Secondly, the Inferno pistol, which as you can guess the Primarch didn't use often. Looks like a twin Milta revolver without a cylinder. Next is the Moon Silver blade, if I haven't mixed them up. A gift to Sanguinius from Rogaldorn, made of the same alloy as his flagship, and it's really special because Dorn's flagship is the largest warship in the Imperium and one of the oldest. The swords are about the same size. And finally, the coolest, favorite weapon of Sanguinius, the Spear of Telesto. This is his main weapon, with which he crushed almost all of his enemies, except for maybe a couple of final bosses on Terra. The spearhead is shaped in the form of teardrop, with a depression in the center, symbolizing the single drop of the blood he shed when he swore allegiance to the Emperor. It looks really nice, definitely in my top 3 favorite Primarch weapons. Also 3 pairs of alternate hands were included, all in gauntlets, with open palms, gripping for a pistol and gripping for a melee weapon. The Primarch was supplied with his hands clenched into fists. Sanguinius is the most non-standard Primarch in terms of articulation, at least until the release of Daemonic Angron, Daemonic Mortarion and especially Daemonic Fulgrim, who will outmatch them all in any case. Sanguinius' feet are unusual. Instead of expected ball joints like all the other figures, he will have bendable joints with rotation, probably in order to better work with figure's weight, but it didn't help. Knees with a double bend and hinged hips with the ability to rotate are standard. The range of motion is wide, but there's one rather pleasant moment: they are incredibly tight and do not want to bend until much force is applied. There are ball joints in the chest and waist, but due to their incredible tightness and because of the pressure on them from the wings behind the back, there are little of mobility. The arms are standard: hands, elbows, shoulders, hinged pauldrons. The head is almost motionless due to his luxurious hair, which rests on the armor. The wings have a bending joint at their base, which allows them to be pulled back and rotate using the same mounting pin. Each wing consists of 3 sections that can fold and unfold. Something like really soft gears are used in their joints. All this together gives Sanguinius a good range of motion with the wings, which I will soon demonstrate. But there's a couple of limitations associated with bending in other directions, relative to the body and relative to the wings themselves, which I'll talk about a bit later as well. To equip Sanguinius, you need to replace his fists with gripping hands. Put the pistol in the holster, it can even be fastened, but it is very difficult to do. Put the Moonsilver sword in the sheath. By the way, both swords can fit here. And give out a Telesto and a Carmine into the hands. And finally we got to the most difficult. Display of the Angel actually feels like hell. At least if you are not a fan of stands. The wings even folded way a lot and tip the figure back. But that's only half of the trouble, because it won't work with the distribution of balance normally, because Sanguinius wears boots with the narrowest soles. He is literally in narrow shoes with a heel. The surface area of the foot is too small to somehow stabilize the figure on 2 points of support. And by the way, he weighs 393 grams. For comparison, Guilliman weighs 354 grams. He has a powerful body with a massive backpack and legs, but no huge wings behind the back. And here is the difference in size of their feet. The basic JOYTOY stand will not improve the situation, because it cannot cope with the high center of gravity of the wings, and he will easily fall even standing on it, unless you try 2 at once. Therefore, standing on his feet, static or dynamic poses are possible, like a stance with 2 swords or a gangster style with a pistol. But all this is very unstable. He feels a little more stable standing on 1 knee. If you're familiar with the background of Sanguinius, you understand how important it is for the figure to be able to kneel. Now we move on to the main display format with the stand. And I even allow myself to say a few words about the character, who actually didn't need an introduction. Sanguinius is the second most revered hero of the Imperium after the Emperor himself. One of the strongest Primarchs, moreover potentially the strongest Primarch, if you do not take into account the Chaos boosts. The Angel is good in absolutely everything and everywhere. Except perhaps the ability to manage aggression in difficult moments of a tough battle, which never prevented him from being a perfect leader, friend, brother, son and father of the Legion of Blood Angels. Sanguinius is an example of heroism and strength. During the Siege of Terra he fought 3 boss fights in a row, almost without breaks. First fought against the Light Demon Kabankha, after which he tore off the head of the Demon Prince Angron, and was seriously wounded. After which he went to the final boss of the Heresy, and in an attempt to defeat him and prove that fate can be changed, he died tragically and brutally in battle with Horus. So the story of Sanguinius as a separate plot is probably the most epic and most dramatic storyline that Warhammer has. Now a few words about working with the stand. The figure feels very comfortable in it. Freedom for poses with the wings in different positions opens up. The spear naturally makes them even more beautiful, although in fact all the dynamics are in the wings and arms. The legs are not so important here. The main thing is that they must be straightened or only one is bent, otherwise it will look ridiculous. It is a pity that the wing details do not provide their extension forward of the body and bending perpendicular to the back. Also, it can be really cool if they made at least the extreme part of the wing rubberized, with wire inside, so that they can bend relative to themselves. This could be useful for some poses from the arts, but in general, if you devote time to this, it can convey different positions quite well. For example, I really like this picture. In principle, it's quite possible to capture it. Unexpectedly, Sanguinius copes well with combat poses, but mostly on the flight condition, on the stand, and it turns out that he attacks from above, pointing the spear down. Well, if you want to fight standing on your feet without using wings, then you still need to use the stand, just lowering the bracket down, essentially imitating display stands like for 1/6 figures. At least it's not attached between his legs or to his butt. A few size comparisons. Ordinary Imperial soldiers like this Scion, Orcadian or Krieg Death Corps. Blood Angel Space Marine from the Heresy era. Skeletor in 1/12 scale from Mattel. Please do not confuse him with the Emperor's Children Chaplain. Dreadnought Contemptor of the Blood Angels. Beloved brother. If we count to head level, Guilliman is about half a centimeter shorter. I also suggest taking a closer look at the faces and heads of the main blondes of the Imperium. And my friend Basil refused to work for food during the set. So, Sanguinius from JOYTOY. I can talk about him for a very long time, so I'll try to highlight the most important things. I have no personal experience of interacting with horse and lion figures, but probably today in terms of cost and interestingness, this is the coolest Primarch from JOYTOY. He is definitely more interesting than not yet released Alfarius. And Ungrown is still a very different price segment, although I'm almost sure that in terms of functionality he will offer the same. Sanguinius has a nice set of 4 full-fledged weapons. This is great. Plus a special stand, but something is still missing. This is either a hat with a more aggressive face expression, or hat in a mask. It would be great not to buy it from customizers. The only drawback of the figure is lack of stability due to the center of gravity shifted by the wings, and the small surface area of the feet. And although I have enough mobility in the wings, perhaps someone may find it insufficient. I don't know if it's worth stating the obvious that it is not a toy at all, and it's simply impossible to play with it. Even film and animation would be incredibly difficult. So Sanguinius is a shelf display model. He looks great both alone and surrounded by, for example, the Defenders of Terra. So he can be displayed in any setup, even next to Necrons. On this I say goodbye, and remind you that I will be very grateful for your subscriptions and comments. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.